Have you always wanted to write your book, but you didn't know how? Do you think you're not the best writer, but you want to be an author? Well, congratulations. You're in the right place. Welcome to the Book Writing Masterclass. I am Olympia LePoint, host of Answers Unleashed, seen on AnswersUnleashed.com, and the author of the Answers Unleashed book series. This particular video is your book writing masterclass. It's book publishing 101 to help you understand how to write your book. You don't have to be an award-winning writer to be an award-winning author. All you have to know is the 3 steps to book publishing. And in this video, I share the 3 steps through an online workshop that I give at Santa Monica College. At the beginning of this video, you'll see the dean of the emeritus program talk to the students. And then after that, I will give an hour-and-a-half workshop online to help you get answers on how to publish your book. Enjoy this masterclass and take notes. Grab a pen and a piece of paper because what you're going to learn is going to be powerful. And I am available to help you write your book. Tune in and watch the rest of this masterclass.
Good afternoon, friends of emeritus students, and members of the community. Hopefully you know me by now. My name is Scott Silverman. I am the Dean of Non-Credit and External Programs at Santa Monica College, and I oversee the Emeritus program and like 10 other things. It's my pleasure to have you join us today. We're joined by an amazing guest speaker who I've been impressed with, and I think you will be as well. Olympia LePoint is literally a rocket scientist, an expert on many things, an author, a commentator, and guest on lots of news shows all around. So as I was saying, we have an amazing guest with us today. Olympia is, as I said, an accomplished author, published author, dynamic speaker, and well-versed in so many different things. And she's joining us to talk about book publishing and give us lots of tips, tricks, and suggestions. Later on, we'll allow people to unmute and ask questions. That was a long and drawn-out introduction. Let me introduce to you the wonderful Olympia LePoint, everyone.
You don't have to be a phenomenal writer to be an award-winning author. Rather, all you have to have is an important message to share. And today, I'm going to help you write your book. Hi, I am Olympia LePoint, host of Answers Unleashed, seen on AnswersUnleashed.com, and the author of the Answers Unleashed book series. I have been writing books for the last 13 years, and I'm here to share with us how to successfully write your book. Now, you don't have to know everything about book publishing, but rather all you have to know is that there's 3 steps to book publishing. And if you can learn the 3 steps, then you can write your amazing book. Now, I wasn't always a writer. In fact, I was a scientist, a rocket scientist for years. I helped launch rockets, and you more than likely have seen me on TED Talks and a variety of other science-related shows. And it wasn't until I started teaching as a mathematics professor did I realize the importance of writing a book. For me, I was teaching these classes, and the students wanted help to overcome their fear of mathematics. And I gave a workshop to one course in one class, and they really loved it. And then I realized I could actually give this workshop at other places. And then I realized, what if I write down the information from the workshop in a book, a easy to read book, so no matter where someone was located, whether they be in the United States or abroad, they can get this information. And that led me to write my first book, Mathophobia: How You Can Overcome Your Math Fears and Become a Rocket Scientist. That led to my TED Talk, and my TED Talk, Reprogramming Your Brain to Overcome Fear, was based on my first book. Then that TED Talk led to my second book, Answers Unleashed: The Science of Unleashing Your Brain's Power. where I talk about the importance of taking chaotic situations and retraining our thinking so we find innovation. And that book led me to my latest book, which is Answers Unleashed 2, The Science of Attracting What You Want, where I talk about the importance of decision making. Long story short is I was never trained to be an author. Rather, I had an important message to share. Just like you have a very important message to share. And in this particular video series here that you're going to watch, I'm going to share with you the ins and outs to book publishing. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm going to introduce to you the 3 steps to book publishing so you can take your information and you can construct a book with it, because the only person who is credible to give your story and your information, whether it be for a nonfiction book or a fiction book, is you. You have the expertise, the knowledge, and the story that people will listen to and will read. So in today's lecture, I'm going to give us, it's kind of like the book publishing masterclass. It's how to write your book and how to do it successfully. And not only that, how to attract readers and win awards for your work. And as you can see here, I have awards for writing my book series. And I'm going to show us the 3 steps to book publishing. So you may want to grab a piece of paper and a pen, and this video is going to be available on my website, answersunleashed.com/book publishing, as well as on the Santa Monica College website, where you can rewatch this video and take notes. Grab a pen and a piece of paper because we're going to be talking about a lot. And as we will share information, you can always pause this video, rewind it, and capture more information. And I'm available for one-on-one coaching to help you specifically write your book. And I'm going to share about that in this particular video. Okay, so we're going to look at some charts and some information that will help us understand how to write an amazing book. I'm going to put on my glasses here so I can see the screen. And this is what we're going to go for. Learning to publish your book. And this is our Santa Monica College online class. And it's a workshop that's specifically given for people who want to write their books. Now, the agenda for today's talk is in 3 parts. I'm going to ask you the big question. This question is going to be very powerful, and it's going to help you form the contents of your book. Second, we're going to look at the 3 parts to book publishing. Book Publishing 101 consists of 3 distinctive strategies. The first is the book as a product. The second is the book as a marketing aspect where you know your market. And third is the publishing options and the logistics of that. And the last part of this particular workshop is your question and answer section. I will be answering your questions and helping you really define how to really publish a book. I want to thank the Santa Monica College Emeritus Program, the Dean Scott Silverman. Also, I want to thank Robert Rodriguez, who is a professor at Santa Monica College, the Emeritus Program, and I want to thank the person who helps put things all together, Ashley Price at Santa Monica College Emeritus Program. And I definitely want to thank the college for providing this educational information for the public. I also want to thank my mentor. It's in memory. He is the late IRWIN ZUCKER. He was born in 1927 and recently passed away this year in 2022. He was a book publicist for over 50 years, and he taught me how to write and market my books. So the information in which he shared with me, I am packaging it and sharing it with you in a way in which is going to be very powerful. He was a publicist for celebrities, if you remember Zsa Zsa Gabor, and very famous Hollywood celebrities. And he was my mentor for 12 years for writing books. And he was my book publicist for so many years. And he taught me everything I know about book publishing. Now, I know that you're going to have questions on this particular presentation. I invite you to go to answersunleashed.com/book publishing, and you can call our office number at 310-272-4293. And you're also welcome to contact Santa Monica College Emeritus Program at 310-434-4306 to get a copy of this particular video, as well as to request more information on this particular talk. Now, a little bit about me. I am the author of the Answers Unleashed book series. It's a U.S. trademarked product that is an educational book series about science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and it helps people rewire their brain with their own information and with science so they find innovation and answers in front of them. Therefore, it's Answers Unleashed. I developed this U.S. trademark product and we have 3 products. We have Mathophobia, Answers Unleashed, and Quantum Deciding, which is all U.S. trademark. And I am very thankful to be the IRWIN Award recipient for the Answers Unleashed and Mathophobia book series. I am the CEO of OL Consulting Corporation and Publishing, and we publish educational books that's distributed across the United States, and we're looking to distribute abroad. So I am a executive of a book publishing company. So I really want to share with you what I have learned in this process. All right, I have a $10 million question for you, and I hope you're ready. This is the question. If it were your last week on Earth, and you can speak to any group of strangers, what would be your message? Which group would it be? And how would you communicate your points? I know that's a $10 million question. Well, if you have the answer to all 3 of these, now remember, this is a question. If it were your last week on Earth and you could speak to any group of strangers, what would be your message? Which group will it be? And how would you communicate your points? The answer to this question will form the contents of your first book. Whether it is nonfiction or fiction, this particular question will help you define the contents of your book. You see, you have a story, whether it be fictional or nonfictional. And fictional meaning that it's something that's completely made up. Nonfiction is something that is factual and you're recounting what happened. Whether it's fiction or nonfiction, your story is a powerful idea. Your idea is like a seed. And your story has an opportunity to grow. It has the opportunity to grow into a great tree. I kind of relate it to a tree because trees are here way after our lives and they live centuries if they're planted correctly. This main trunk of this tree is your story idea. And your writing is a branch of this particular gigantic growth. Your publishing logistics is a second branch. And the third branch is your book marketing. Your story idea cannot grow into the life in which it is designed to have unless it has these 3 aspects of book publishing: your writing, your publishing logistics, and your book marketing. You have 3 branches that you have to nurture and develop. If you don't develop these 3 areas, your story falls short and you have an unbalanced story and your story falls flat. The trick is making sure that you have those 3 branches, those 3 steps to your book publishing, so you have a successful seed that grows into a life that gives a legacy to your work that lasts long after your last days here on earth and that lives centuries after you. That is the concept of book writing. Your 3 branches, which is the writing, the book logistics, and the book marketing based on your story idea, is the same concept within business. In order for any type of business to be successful, it has to have 3 legs. It has to have the product, it has to have the administrative side, and it also has to have the marketing. Well, when you write a book, that 3 branches translates into the product being the writing, the administrative being the publishing logistics, making sure you have the right contracts and making sure you have the right printing. And then the book promotion is your marketing. Just like a business, your book has a life of its own and it requires these 3 aspects. So the idea I want to make sure that you understand is that your idea, your story has 3 branches, and your book, if you think it's just a story, think again. It is a business because you're creating a product that will last way beyond your years and will create a legacy for yourself. So you have to think about it that way. So the first part of our workshop is your book writing. This part is the writing. The first part of what we're going to discuss in this 3-branch system is your writing. Your writing is fundamental and it has detailed steps for you to master the concept and deliver the story in a way in which will engage your reader. There's processes to do that. In these next charts, I'm going to show you the process to engage your reader and engage the reader in a story that has a solid outline and a powerful, powerful form of contents. All right, let's take a look. All right, now we're at your book writing. We want to make sure that the book writing is solid. So there's ways to do that. Book writing has a title. Your book will have a title like no other title, and it's really important that you research all the different titles that exist and verify no other title is similar to yours. If your title is similar to another book, your book may get confused with another person's book, and you want to avoid that scenario because you don't want to be brought up on any type of trademark infringement or copyright infringement where people think that your work is too similar to someone else's. So you want to really brainstorm on a hot, great title that people will remember and that will get your point across. You also want to have a subtitle. This is a catchy subtitle. It can be of any length and it gets to the point. You have a foreword, and this foreword is by another expert or author. You have endorsements, and these are by people in the field that is in the same field of what you are writing about. And you have about the author section, and this is where you write about your experience. And you have to have a solid outline. This includes an introduction that grabs the reader and really brings the reader into the subject. You usually have 7 seconds to capture that reader's attention within the first couple of pages of your book. And then within the first 7 pages of your book, the reader makes a decision if they're going to finish your book or not. What you want to have is 7 seconds of excitement that draws someone in, as well as the initial introduction that has 7 pages that really gives the reader the decision to finish your book. You also have a thesis. This is the main point of your book that you want to show and explain. And then you have supporting chapters. These supporting chapters develop your main point, which is your thesis. And your supporting chapters have points within each chapter. And at the very last part of your book, you have a super conclusion. And that chapter brings everything together, whether it be nonfiction or fiction. That is a solid outline for your work. Now, titles. When you create a title, you want it powerful and to the point. You want a title that's like no other book, or like not even remotely like any other book. You want it really unique, and you want a title that depicts the entire theme or of a storyline. You can think of Thrive, Think and Grow Rich, Mathophobia. That's my book. You want to make sure no one else has your title, and you want to do Google researches on Google searches on it, and you want to avoid subtitles with the word I in it. Subtitles that are hard to understand, assuming the audience knows your background and expertise, is something also to avoid. And you want a subtitle that's not too short. You don't want a subtitle that's so short that someone doesn't know what you're talking about, but you want a subtitle where it explains the purpose of your book. And you also want words that are extremely easy to read. You don't want any rare or uncommon words in your subtitle unless it deals with something specific in your book. So you want to use your subtitle as a way to grab the attention of the reader. What you want to do for book writing is you want to avoid boring initial chapters. You want to avoid a lack of structure. You want to avoid having someone else write your story, and you want to avoid not setting a time to write each day. You want to include a way to excite with the initial pages and chapter. You want a solid structure. You want to write your own story. And the best way to do this is to schedule a time every single day to write your story. And you want to schedule it daily. Do it every single day, like a habit. Once you form that habit, it becomes really tough to break, and you find out that you're able to get a lot done. Now, I love this because I'm going to give you 3 different titles and subtitles, and I want you to look at each one of the titles and decide which is the one that's best for you, or actually the one that's best in the way that it is written. What grabs your attention? If you were a person who were picking up a book, what title and subtitle would be a effective set of words? The first is A. Is it A? Remove Math Fear, and the subtitle is How I Learned to Remove My Fear of Math. Is it B? No More Math Fear, How I Removed My Math Fear and Launched Rockets. Or C, Mathophobia, How You Can Overcome Your Math Fears and Become a Rocket Scientist. Now, the answer is C. Mathophobia, How You Can Overcome Your Math Fears and Become a Rocket Scientist. This is actually the title of my first book. And the reason why it was chosen is because the title is trademarked and it's unique. So that is one of the biggest selling points of that particular title. And the subtitle can be any length. That's really important to notice. And the subtitle reveals the background of the author and highlights the reader's potential. Now, it took me months to figure out this particular title and subtitle. So it will take you some time to figure out the best title and subtitle. You want to spend your time on this. You can be writing your book all along and be marinating over the title and subtitle that's going to work best for you. So you don't have to have this complete, but you do have to keep writing your book, and that title and subtitle is going to come to you in a way that's going to be kind of like an aha moment. Now, there's also about the author section. This is a part of your writing too. You have to have a part in your book which is about the author. So people are always going to wonder, who are you? You're writing this book. Who are you? Why are you the one to tell this story? What makes you an expert? How will your story help audiences? When you write about yourself, because really you're going to be the one writing about yourself, and there's going to be an editor who's going to be looking over what you wrote and refining it. You want to keep these questions in mind because that's the same questions that your audience will wonder about when they're reading about you. Because more than likely, unless you're this major celebrity, they're not going to know who you are. So you're going to have to answer these questions about the author in your write-up. So we're going to take a few moments and we're going to find out about you. I want you to write on your piece of paper, and I want you to answer these questions. What is your book topic? What is your education and training pertaining to the topic? And explain your personal experience and why the reader should listen to you. We're going to take a few moments and we're going to answer these questions. So remember, we're going to look at what is your book topic? What is your education and training pertaining to the topic? And explain your personal experience and why the reader should listen to you. All right. Hopefully that was a great exercise to make you start thinking about how great of an author you are. You want endorsements. And this is what do experts say about your book. So you would benefit in knowing the difference between a book review and an endorsement. A book review is a literary criticism that expresses the reader's opinion about the book's content. It might be flattering and it might be unflattering. So that's a book review. But you're looking for an endorsement. An endorsement is also known as a book blurb or a testimonial. In short, advance praise for your book from someone who influences your book's target audience. The key word used here is praise. Now, it's really important for you to know that endorsements are really great because the endorsements give you the ability to know that there's other people who are excited about your book, and it gives the audience knowledge that other people are really excited about your book. My first book, it was endorsed by one of my parents that I worked with. There was a student who I tutored for 5 or 6 years in mathematics, and he graduated and he went to California State University, Northridge, and he was successful in his mathematics. The person who wrote one of my endorsements was his father. After all these years, the father was so happy that his son went to school and passed all his math classes with not just a passing grade, but with A's. And so one of the endorsements for the first book, Mathophobia, How You Can Overcome Your Math Fears and Become a Rocket Scientist, was from a parent who actually used the program. An endorsement also is really key in making sure you have the great people who are promoting your book. So what do experts say about your book? When you find people to give your book endorsements, you want to think about, who do you know? Who would make statements about your subject matter? What other authors do you know? typically endorsements come from other authors, and that would be ideal. If you know another author or you can get a hold to a connection of another author, that would be great. And do your friends know other authors to introduce you to? That's a really great way to meet other people and see what they think. My first book, I had a person from my church introduce me to another author who wrote an endorsement for my first book, and that endorsement was really helpful, and that landed me on NBC Channel 4 News in 2013. That was the first time I was on the news for my book. You want to look for forewords by renowned people. My second book, Answers Unleashed, The Science of Unleashing Your Brain's Power, had a foreword by neuroscientist Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz. And the reason why he was chosen is because he is a world-renowned neuroscientist that understands the inner workings of the brain. And since I was talking about rewiring our thinking in my second book, who better else than to have a neuroscientist, Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, talk about how my book was really instrumental in helping people develop their thinking. So he was the author of other books, which is You're Not Your Brain and The Mind and the Brain and Brain Lock, and that was ideal in this particular case. Another example is my book was endorsed by Athena Dwan, who is a marriage family therapist, and she was instrumental in providing an endorsement because her background deals with psychology, and the second book that I wrote deals with rewiring the brain. So endorsements would come from people who are experts in the field, and this is an example of what was written in that particular section. Outlines. Now this is really fun here. And this is what I created. There's two different type of outlines. There's nonfiction and fiction. What we're going to first look at is the nonfiction, and then we're also going to look at the fiction. Nonfiction, I created a formula for the structure of a nonfiction type of work outline, and I call it PESA, which is the first part is introduction to the problem. The second part, E, stands for the examples of the roots of the problem. The S stands for the solution that's introduced, and the A stands for the answers and the examples. In your chapter 1, if you have a nonfiction book, this is a formula to write a nonfiction book. And there's different formulas for a structure and outline. This is one of them. This is the one that I created. There's other types. But this particular formula, the P is in the first chapter and is introducing your audience to the problem. Here you state how you were affected or others are affected by the issue. And that really grabs the reader into understanding how important the answer is going to be. The third and fourth chapters deals with E, which is the root problems, the roots of the problems, and the daily samples. Here you identify where the problem originated. And you usually introduce that in chapters 3 and 4. Chapter 5 is where you have the peak. And it's the peak that's below. And let me go back here for a second. In order to get from point A to point B in any type of outline, it's never a straight line. It's always this approach where it's this curve. And the curve takes the reader on a journey. And this journey eventually gets you to point B, but they've gone on a journey to get there. A story never is from point A to point B. And if it were, all it would be is one sentence. This particular nonfiction structure takes the reader on a journey where the first chapters takes the reader into the depths of the problem. And the chapters 3 through 4 takes the reader to understand the aha moment, like, oh, this is why the problem exists. And takes the reader on that peak where they're excited about knowing how things work. And then as you get into the solution, it takes you into the depths of the issue and how you could reformat the problem and the situation by looking at it with a different type of solution. And this is where you introduce your groundbreaking approach that is like no other. And then you take the reader on a journey again, and that journey brings them to the peak where you start to find answers and examples and you apply them. And you give answers and show how examples of how your solution works for resolving the initial issue. The reader takes action from your chapters, and that's how you take a person from point A to point B. So that is an example of a PESA approach, which is the formula for a nonfiction body of work. For fiction, you have a really interesting part. Again, we have this roller coaster of a ride. And you never take the reader from point A to point B. There's always this journey that exists. And for the fiction, I created this SCAR approach. This is like a formula for nonfiction. In chapters 1 and 2, you want to introduce a setting and distinctive characters. Here you make the reader feel a part of the setting, and you bring the reader into making friends with the character. You have the reader really understand the aspects of the setting, the environment. You have the reader really know the characters. The chapters 3 and 4 build you up to a conflict in the dialogue. Here you want to introduce the external and internal conflicts of the characters. Each one of the characters have inner working thoughts that goes inside of their head that are conflicting with finding an answer or an approach to the particular situation. What you want to do is bring the reader to an epiphany moment, and that's where the peak is, where they understand how these complex characters think and why they're thinking that way. And then you bring the reader into the depths of the A, which is the actual twist. This is the pivotal point, which is the breaking point, where the characters are faced with a choice that will lead to two potential outcomes. Either they're going to have success or they're going to have failure based on their decision making. And then you bring the reader back into that pivotal moment and that aha moment where the answers to both the conflicts via the characters and the actions have resolution. And this is where the characters take bold actions and leaves the characters trying to guess, or leaves the reader trying to guess what will happen next. So this is the SCAR approach, and this is something in which I created for people to understand fiction work. Now we're going to look at your market. If you think everyone is going to read your book, I want you to think again. Not everyone is going to pick up your book. You want the people that the message is for to pick up your book. Your book is not for everyone. If it were, you would have to print up billions of copies for every single person on the face of the planet, and that's not realistic. Rather, your book is for the people who will grow and learn from your story, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. This next section is going to help you understand how to create a winning market, a market that will read your book, and a market that will help you get your message across. In order for you to effectively write your book, you have to know who you're writing it for. That is your market. This next section is going to share with you how to identify your market, write your book for your market, as well as promote your book to the correct people so the people that need your story will have it. All right, let's take a look at this. Now we're going to look at your market. All right, now we're going to look at your market. You have a specific group of people who are interested in reading your work. Let's find out who they are. Who will read your book? This is your market audience. It is best to know your demographic of your audience. Are they readers? Are your readers women, men, non-binary, or all people? What age? Children, teens, young adults, professionals, seniors? What is their average income base? For example, my book, I usually gear it towards people who can afford tutoring. What is their education? Are they working people, executives, stay-at-home moms? And lastly, what are they looking for in general? Once you establish your readership, these are the people who actually are interested in your story. Once you establish your readership, you want to target the reason why an individual would want to buy your book, then read it. That is the key aspect. Your book is going to answer a question. It's going to provide something in which they haven't seen before. And it will be ideal if it's something similar to what people have seen previously. That deals with your competitive analysis. This is when you identify what other books are similar to your books. Here's a list of fiction book genres. We have fantasy, we have adventure, romance, contemporary, we have mystery, horror, thriller, paranormal, can't even say it, paranormal, historical fiction, science fiction, children's books. For a list of nonfiction books, you have memoirs, we have cookbooks, you have art, self-help, development, motivational, health, history, travel, how-to guides, family and relationships, and humors. Okay, you want to know who and what authors have written books that are similar to the ones in which you're writing. I'll say it again. You want to know who are the other authors who have written books similar to yours. See, no publisher will want to publish a book that is unlike other great sellers. That doesn't make any sense on a business standpoint. They want to publish books where they have already established a market. For example, if you have written a cookbook and your book is similar to Martha Stewart's book, you would like to target Martha Stewart's readers. But what does your book bring to the table that's different than what Martha Stewart has? These are some basic types of competitive analysis type of questions. Those books already have an established market base. So you want to find 3 books that are similar to your book and explain how your book brings a new angle or a new solution to the reader. You want to identify books that are similar to your books, and you want to really read them from cover to cover and see what they have and make improvements and figure out something in which you can bring to the reader that is slightly different but is better. Now, your market can be organizations. If you think that individuals are the ones that buy books mainly, think again. There are major organizations that buy books, and these books are in high quantity. Schools, certificate programs, businesses, movie studios, even fans of a certain, let's say, artists buy books. These organizations will buy a large number of books at once. Schools, for example, educational books designed to teach students and university scholars about a topic is one example. Certificate programs, how-to books designed to teach a specific skill. Like, for example, when I was working as an engineer, there was a certain type of way you had to weld materials together in order for them not to rupture and come apart when the engine hot fire, other words, started. So that was a special type of certificate program type of book. Businesses, these are training guides and executive leadership books, and these calendars and planners are in this category. Like, for example, I have a quantum deciding planner for executives. That is for businesses. Movie studios, these are books that are memoirs, that are amazing real life stories, and movie studios buy the rights to the book or buy the rights to have the book in a movie. So this is a type of market for some books and fans. We have major artists and musical artists, and so they have merchandise. You see these merchandise counters in the back of a concert, and they have these picture books, and they have these different type of books that have the storyline of the artist. I think Rihanna had a picture book of her different shows and styles. See, these books are purchased through merchandising at the end of concerts. So the organizations that would buy large amounts of books would be the organization that would throw the concert, per se. So if you think of books having a market as organizations, that is actually very helpful for you as well. You want to determine your market and your success. So what's your book's demographic? What's your book's demographic? Will the readers buy a book if they are looking to gain information? What will the readers learn from your book? And what are 3 other books that are similar? That's a way for you to identify what your market is. What is your book's demographics? What will the readers gain from your book? And what are 3 books that are similar? Now, in order to have people buy your book, they have to know it exists. And that's what is called book publicity. You have to have people know what your book is about, and they have to know that you've written it. So you have different types of promotion based on the different types of books. See, nonfiction books have marketing and fiction books have marketing, and they require the same type of strategy, but their markets may be different. For example, business books have different marketing. They would market to executives. School textbooks would market to teachers. Self-help books would market to people who are going through therapies. And oftentimes, and this is what I recommend, and this is a part that I was a part of, publicity for authors as an expert is something that is highly beneficial for you. If you're writing a book and you want to be identified as an expert, then it is best for you to find publicity so your book gives you expertise as an author. And that's what I chose to do for my work. I'm a scientist, and so I chose to write a book to help people understand science. And so that gave me an expertise with education in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. In my case, I was able to get book publicity with the help of IRWIN ZUCKER and my publicity team, Icon PR, and Heather Wise Bisano was able to help me get into major outlets, and as well as me promoting myself. So between the 3 of us, the late IRWIN ZUCKER and my publicist Heather, as well as myself, pitching, and that's what you do when you want book publicity. You have to pitch your work. I was able to get in Newsweek, USA Today, and People Magazine, and on 30 different TV shows over the course of the 2-year period from 2020 through 2022. And I'm very pleased with how we really was able to target the different media outlets and get my book and my book publishing company publicity. Once you have media placements, it gives you credibility. And in my case, since I have a book publishing company, the media placements gave not only myself credibility, it gave my company credibility on being able to create products that people would be helped by. Promotional platforms are really good with giving you exposure, and it comes in various forms. You can get promotion and platforms like social media videos. You can get promotion through TED Talks. If you land a TED Talk, usually there's somebody talking about their book or program or idea on TED Talks. Church groups and professional organizations is a great platform for you to share information that's from your book. Teaching classes where your book is required is a great way to promote your book and have people know that it exists. Securing TV news programs, that's like the cream to the crop. This great opportunity. Being on a TV talk show is a huge deal if you've written a book. Being a guest on audio and video podcasts is great. Being in a magazine and have a magazine feature gives you credibility, and it allows people to know that you've written a great book. And then your writing as an expert on a major platform gives you an opportunity to be seen. Arianna Huffington gave me the opportunity to write on the Huffington Post and Thrive Global with my books, and I was very thankful because that opened up the door for me to become a journalist. TV placements must be polished. If you're on TV, you have to be polished. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you have to be so polished where you have only 5 to 7 minutes, if that, to talk about your book. And you have to get your information out there very quickly, and you have to know the audience of the TV show. If you're talking to an audience that is in the morning, it's more than likely professionals. If you're talking to an audience where it's late night, it's probably more than likely the demographic maybe be male. So you have to really know your audience when you're on these TV shows, and you have things to prepare for the producers when you're on these shows. There are PR firms and there's self-promotion. PR firms, which stands for public relations, is a way for you to get your book out there. PR firms charge monthly for authors, and the key thing with this is that bookings are not guaranteed. You may pay money and not have any media placements. I remember hearing about a person that I knew that paid a publicist $15,000 for 3 months, and he only got placed on one TV show. And I thought to myself, that was a ripoff. Most publicity, professional publicity people is around probably like $3,000 a month. Now, costs can range between $1,500 a month and $6,000 a month for publicity to get on TV shows and major programs. Now, there's a usual minimum of 3 months in a contract, and some publicists are just bluntly con artists, and some are truthful, and some are simply not skilled, and some are absolutely phenomenal. You don't know which one they are unless you really do your research. And so I recommend, if you do write a book and you want to get a promotion and you are determined to have a PR firm, I would only go with PR referrals who have solid media placement and you have referrals for their experience. I would not go with anybody that comes to you and says that they can do it. I would recommend only going with a referral, because that way it's a little bit safer that you're not going to be in a situation where someone's going to take your money and not give you a return on your investment. So there's also self-promotion. Self-promotion will require time and resources from you, where you do the work, plus you write about your book and promote yourself in lieu of paying a PR firm. Now, this is a lot of work, but it's an option for you. If you're not interested in paying $3,000 to $5,000 a month for someone else to do it, you can actually do it yourself. So there's a whole list of things that you do, but this is a couple of things that you do initially. You create a way for you to have professional photos. That's usually around $300 for 1 to 2 looks of headshots. You create a website specifically for the book that can be anywhere between $300 and $700. And you create a press release, and that's recommended for people who want to get the information out there to news agencies and have a long-lasting press release that's on the web. So when they Google your name or Google your book's name, your press release comes up. And PR Web is one that I used before that's usually around $340 starting. And then you can sign up for HARO, which is Help a Reporter Out. And that's a daily release database on reporters who are looking on looking for news stories. So you can actually go to Haro and pitch yourself and pitch your book, and I've gotten some great publicity from that. And I truly recommend it if you don't have the money to hire a PR firm to pitch yourself. Now, it's really important. I'm going to get into this a little later on. If you go with a traditional publishing company, if you're a first-time author, they typically do not pay for a PR person for you. It's still your responsibility to pay someone to promote you. It's only when you've written 2 or 3 books and have some more expertise underneath your belt do they actually pay for a publicist for you. But if you're a new author, most 99.9% of the time, they're going to ask you to hire your own publicist. And so we're going to get into that a little bit later. So you want to keep this in mind that if you do not have the funds to be able to do something like that and you want to write your book, you can promote yourself, and that's a cost-effective method. If you have TV placements, that's a sign of success. TV producers will look for 5 things. They look for an official press release, that's usually from the PR web that in which I told you about, with your book publishing company cited and a website for your book. Your professional credibility, they're going to be looking for that to see who are you and how your books relate to a newsworthy story. They're not going to put anything on the news unless it's related to something that is in the news. So you have to really know how your book relates to a topic that is hot in the news. One thing that they also look for is your video of you speaking to show that you can speak well on film and that you get to the point. They want to make sure that whoever they're going to put on TV actually can speak. They don't want somebody that will go, and is silent. They want somebody who can communicate their point. 5, the 5th one, other programs you've been on, they want to see who else is interested in this topic, or even if you haven't been on a TV program, what news or magazines have you been in? And then 6, they usually have you a sign a release. That is for you to use your video or book cover or photo. And this is typically if the program is going to be re-aired or shown again. If it's live news, they don't necessarily request that unless they're going to be showing your book cover, and then they ask for a release of your book cover so they can show that. So that is the story there. Now we're going to look at your publishing options. All right. You have publishing options. You don't have to go with a traditional publisher. And if you've been turned down from a traditional publisher, that is okay. You can still publish your book. Or if you have offers from a publishing company and you don't necessarily like their offer, you can negotiate and find out other opportunities. The point is you have options and you have a choice on what you choose to do. I'll give you a story. When I first decided to write my first book, Mathophobia, I submitted it to 2 different locations. One was a traditional publishing company that created textbooks for schools, and they were interested in writing the book and publishing the book. And I had the title Mathophobia. And they said, we don't want that title, Mathophobia. You have to change it. And I said, what? But that's the title of the book. That's what I talk about. They're like, you have to change it. If you want to write the book underneath our publishing company, you have to change the word. And I didn't realize that because I had US trademarked the term Mathophobia, the publishing company didn't want to have a book underneath that title because that means that they would have to pay me to use my title and not the other way around. I didn't know the business side of this situation at the time. Later on, I found out that publishing my book underneath my company, OL Consulting Corporation, was the best deal in my situation. Before I published my book through my publishing company, I also submitted it to another organization. This organization looked at the book, and you have to be wary because some organizations expect you to pay to print and produce your book, and you still don't have the rights to it. You want to watch out for these type of organizations. They're like vultures. They go after authors and they kind of like expect authors to pay all the money and then they own the product at the end. And fortunately, I didn't go with that particular organization because they were not really looking out for the author. Most traditional publishing companies typically give an author around maybe 10% of the profits once the book comes out. And that's if there is enough sales. So if you are really wanting to publish a book, there are options for you. There is a traditional publishing route, there's a petite publishing house route, there's a self-publishing route, and there is also a print-on-demand route, and as also as small company printing route. The next part of our presentation is going to look at the different types of printing options that exist and how you can create a winning option for yourself. All right, we're going to look at the different options together. All right. All right. Your publishing options. This is the third part of our talk. We have publishing options. We're going to be looking at 5 different options. Traditional publishing with a well-known publisher, petite publishing houses that require a fee from authors, print on demand via platforms like Amazon and BookBaby, publishing through your small business or small corporation, or individual self-publishing. I want you to really remember this concept. Whoever owns the ISBN for your book owns the money and the products and the revenue for your book. The ISBN is the money maker for your book. It's like the pink slip to your car. Whoever owns it owns your car. The question is, who's going to own this ISBN? The person who owns this ISBN is the person who's going to own your book. It is the barcode on the back of the book. Every single book, if it is a book, it has an ISBN number. This is an international number given to books that are created. Whoever owns the ISBN number is the one who will gain the revenue and profits from your book. And the ISBN is like the car's pink slip, like I said before, and it's like a house deed. Without it, you cannot do anything with the property. Your book is a property. Your story is a property. It's called intellectual property. Your book is an intellectual property. So we're going to be focusing on this ISBN. You want to know who owns it because that will determine what's going to happen with your book. For traditional publishing with a well-known publisher, let's look at that. The pros of working with a traditional publisher is that they require a formal proposal, a formal annotated outline, and half the book pre-written. It gives authors and editors and copyright options for you, and it gives a credible way for you to gain TV exposure because these organizations have other authors who have been on shows. Here's the con part of traditional publishing houses. They pay authors at most 10% of the book sales. They own the ISBNs and publishing rights, and you do not. And you have limited copyrights to the authors. They expect new authors to pay for their own book publicity, which is around $5,000 per month for 6 months. So you're looking at a minimum of, $30,000 of publicity. Authors are obligated to sell books, a certain number of books within the first 6 months. Otherwise, the authors have their books shipped back to them at cost. So if they go with you, you have to sell books. Sell, sell, sell in order to become successful. So you have more pressure if you go with the traditional publisher. You also have the option of going with a petite publishing house that requires a fee from authors. They require a fee and they give authors and editors and book cover choices, which is great. They cover book publicity and they do the copyright, which is great. They expect authors to pay for book printing, though, and the authors must buy their own books at retail price for resale. That's the bad part. Authors do not own their ISBNs, and copyrights are also limited, and authors give away all rights to the small publishing house. And that's a little typo there here. Publishing house, and some houses are not credible to gain TV exposure. So there's not that great a situation here with the publishers. The petite publishers, that is. Now we're going to look at print on demand versus platforms like Amazon or BookBaby. So this print on demand is basically when you have a PDF copy of your book and you upload it to a platform like Amazon or BookBaby, and they convert it to a file that can either be printed or downloaded, and they take a percentage for doing that on their platform. The pros of that is that you can edit your own book. You have a choice of your own cover art. You own the copyright. Your book is visible on online searches. The bad part is that, like, for example, Amazon would take 33% of all your profits. 1/3 of your profits is automatically eaten up. Most ISBNs are owned by Amazon, BookBaby, but you do have, BookBaby does give you the opportunity to have your own ISBN and include that, but they also take a cut of your work, so just to be prepared. Authors do not own their ISBNs in many cases. 95% of the cases, they are given ISBN through Amazon or BookBaby or another type of platform. And the ISBN is actually identified and owned by that particular entity. And you pay for your own book publicity. There's nobody paying for this except you. And this is the down part of this. Like, for example, if you want to sell your books to a larger organization, it's very hard for you to do that in this case, because since these books are printing on demand, you cannot send large book sales to organizations that are at free sale prices. Like, you can't give a discount and you go, okay, if you buy 1,000 books, I'm going to give you a discount. You can't do that on this print on demand type of situations. And the printing quality may not be consistent from location to location. Like, if you're printing in one Amazon location or another Amazon location, or printing in one location and another location from some other platform, you're not necessarily guaranteed consistency, which is your book is going to turn out printed the way that you want it to, on the paper, on the gloss, on the look. For example, there's some book printing situations where the binding is not correct and the binding glue starts coming off. And so when you open up the book after a long period of time, the book starts falling apart. That's like poor quality in printing. So you want to have high quality in your printing, and sometimes the print on demand option isn't necessarily guaranteed consistency. And in this case, because it's printed on demand, it's not credible to gain TV exposure. So that's the hard part. The fourth option is publishing through your small business or small corporation. And that's what I chose to do. I have a small corporation that publishes. And the pros to that is that you own your ISBNs and you get a chance to set the price. You design your cover art, you own your copyright. Your book can be on TV if the company has a certain niche, I guess you would say it. And so, like, my company deals with science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and it's been endorsed by like astronauts and neuroscientists and people who are like really top of their field. So my company has a certain specialty, and you can later on, if you choose to take your work and then print with a traditional publishing company later, because you own the rights, you own the ISBN. Here's the con to this. You must find editors, graphic designers, and printing companies. It's not given to you. You actually have to do the research and find this. And then you've got to buy ISBNs. You usually can actually buy a pack of ISBNs from isbn.org, and you own them. So when you own the ISBN, that's like owning the pink slip to your book. But then you must pay for your own copyright for the books. You must pay for your own book publicity. And all of this can be rather costly. And if it's all done at once, you're looking at thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Like for example, I did not have the money to print everything all at once and have my book done. So what I did is I did it in pieces and parts. What I typically do is I create the cover art first, and that will inspire me to create the rest of the book. And then I will write the book, and then I will pay for the editor and spend like 3 to 6 months with the editor and really crafting that. And then the next phase is I will hire the graphic designer who will lay out the interior of the book, and then I talk to the printing company. So it's stages, and so I do it in stages, so it's not all expensive at one point in time. But that particular approach is actually ideal because it still allows you to be able to be on TV because you are technically not printing your book. You're actually having your company, which is a nationally known organization, print your book, so there is legitimacy to your product. And then there's individual self-publishing. Now, if you don't necessarily want to be on TV, but you want to really create a book that you can give your friends and people that you really care about, you can go the self-publishing route. It's almost the exact same as if you had your company do it, exception to this part at the bottom. You cannot be on TV since media officials require books to be printed by a credible company. So you want to avoid being in a situation where you self-publish a book and then you want to get on a talk show or a TV show and talk about it, and then they say no because it's not a book that's under one of the other ones, which is a traditional publishing, a well-known house, or a petite publishing house, or a publishing through a small business. Those are the three ways that TV producers have you on TV if you're on one of those ways. The third way, print on demand, and then individual self-publishing, TV appearances are not as probable with those. So now, if you want to create a formal book proposal for publishers, guess what? All the information that we talked about in this particular presentation will be in your proposal, and each one of the pages of your proposal will deal with these certain things. You'll have a book overview, a book summary. So your overview is like a elevator talk. Your summary is the detailed summary of your book. You have the book title, subtitle, you have an outline, you have an annotated outline. You have your market base, who's your market, and that will also include your competitive analysis. And you have half the book written, and you also show how you plan to promote your book and a publicist selected with 6 months of marketing plan. Or if you plan to self-promote it, you identify that. So this is all the detailed ways that you would share your information with a traditional publishing house. I want to thank my team, my book production team. I want to thank the late IRWIN ZUCKER. I want to thank my photographer, Todd Tyler, my book cover designer, Michelle Manley, Angela Scott, who is my first editor, and Carla Green, who is the interior designer. I want to thank Janice Hunt, who is my new editor on board. And then I want to thank my publicist, Heather Bassano, and then the printing specialist, Rene Gagnon, and his brother, David Gagnon, MK Printing, and my agent, Babette Perry at Innovative Artists. It takes a team to publish a book. So if you think that you're the only person going to be doing it, think again, because there's going to be people helping you along the way to get things done, and I am one of them. Publishers have their teams too. They have editors, they have editor staff, they have cover designers, they have book content designers, they have photographers, they have a publicity team, they have distribution partnerships, and they have a track record with sales. So this is something that you are going to be seeing if you go with a traditional publisher. That is the end of this presentation now. I am happy to have shared this presentation with you. So I want to leave you with this, and then we're going to go to our question and answer period. I want you to always remember that you have a very important story, but your story needs to develop. And it develops through three ways: through telling your story, through a solid writing and outline and structure with examples. It's also having a way to market your book and show it to the right people so they know that your book exists. And it's also creating your book with the right group, whether it be with a traditional publisher, self-publishing, or with a small company, or printing on demand or downloading on demand. Your work and your story is extremely important. If you know the 3 steps to this book publishing, this masterclass is going to help you create your book. I am Olympia LePoint, and I am so happy to have shared this knowledge with you today. I share the knowledge that I learned from IRWIN ZUCKER, who has helped me write phenomenal books, award-winning books, and I am here today to be your coach and answer questions for you. Again, this particular talk was brought to you by Santa Monica College and through my company, OL Consulting Corporation. And if you go to answersunleashed.com/book publishing, you can contact me for coaching and I can help you write your book. Now we're going to take it to question and answers, and these question and answers will allow us to be able to load in more information, have answers to pressing questions, and guide us to what we can do next. All right, let's stick around for the question and answers. Well, I'm excited. I'm telling you, we've filled up the entire time frame. Thank Brian says wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Brian. That is so cool. I really tried to give you information, and again, you saw any typos in the presentation, just overlook that. I wanted to make sure that get you all the information that I could, and again, I am here to offer help and book coaching for you. And if you have a question, I'd like you to put it in the chat. I'm going to go through and answer these questions for you. So if you have a question, I'd like you to put it into the chat, and I can spend time in answering a question for you. Oh, great. I see you guys. All right. All right. So we have, I see a question here. It comes from Derek Chen, and it says, any advice for publishing a graphic novel? Yes. Yes. Please have a pen and paper. I have some answers for you. Any advice, Derek Chen asks, any advice for publishing a graphic novel? Yes. Number 1, own all your images. That is like the number 1 thing. If you're going to publish a graphic novel, you need to own the rights to all the images that you put into that particular book. Otherwise, if you print it and sell it and you don't have the ownership over the images, you can be sued in the future. And it's called copyright infringement. What you want to do is own all the rights of the images in which you're going to put in your book. Or if you don't own all the images, you have to get written consent through a contract from the owner of the image, indicating that they will allow you to print your image in the particular format in which you are creating. You have to get that upfront in writing to prevent lawsuits in the future. And even if you were to get stock images from free websites, let's say, and use that, you have to check the licensing contract for the images that are on these sites, because in some cases, I know for like iStock photos and pixels, you can print this or use it only for a certain limited number of copies. If you were to use it for anything more than that number of copies, you have to get a certain license in which you have to pay for. If you don't pay for that up front, or if you, let's say your book is 1 million copies sold, if you don't have the right licensing available for your images, there can be lawsuits in the future if you don't have that. So that's number one. Number two, what you want to do is make sure this graphic novel is printed on the correct paper that will have the right color saturation for your images. Not all printing companies will offer this type of process for you. So what you want to do is research the printing companies that will be used. You want to make sure they have the right binding, the right paper weight, the right gloss to the paper. And there's a different type of paper that's used for color images. And there's a different pricing that's used for color images if you were to go that route. If you use black and white, there's still a different paper that needs to be used for black and white. And you have to make sure and get a copy. The third tip is you want to make sure and get a copy of a sample of your image book before prints are made. You always want to ask for a sample print of your book to ensure that it's the right color saturation, it's not all dark, and you want to ensure that the colors are or the black and white is crisp to the view so the person will truly appreciate your images. Thank you so much for your question. Thank you. All right, do I have any more questions? Oh, Scott Silverman says that he's here. He can't answer, but he says fantastic. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Let's see the more questions that you have. Mashid, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says thank you for the useful information. Oh, yes, my information. Let me give you my information again. Let's make sure that I have it. It's if you go to answersunleashed.com/book publishing. My information is directly there. Our office number is 310-272-4293. That was a question that was asked for me to repeat my contact information. And again, I encourage you to contact, if any part of this information was very helpful and you want more of this, or you like a copy of this, you can either go to my website that I just said, in which I'm going to post this video up so you can see it, as well as Santa Monica College Emeritus program is going to have this available for you too. And I encourage you to contact the office to find out the link in which you're going to provide it on. I want to really hone in on this point. The most important thing for you to do is to write your book and get out there. And the three processes of writing your book as a product, to understanding how it's going to be printed and produced, and three, knowing how it's marketed, is the foundation to all book publishing. You don't have to sell many books, but you do owe it to yourself to get your book made. You cannot sell a whole lot of books and still be very well known. What you want to do is create the book with the mindset of the first question, in which was introduced at the beginning of this talk, which is you have a very important message to share. It doesn't matter if you're going to sell books right now or 10 years from now or after you're no longer on earth. The point is for you to get that information out, share it with the people who are looking for it, because it takes on a life of its own. You don't have to be the owner of the ISBN, but it is helpful if you are. You don't have to go the self-publishing route. You can go a traditional route. You can do a publishing from a company. It is your choice. But in each decision, there are pros and cons. And I was really thankful to share that with you today, so you had that information available. Yes. I'm here to give authors resources, because it's really IRWIN ZUCKER did that for me, and he was the man that showed me. And so as an honor to his memory, I'm doing this now to help people write their own books. So this is something that I'm passionate about because I've had to go through it myself. Okay. ISBNs is like the deed to the house, and the ISBN is like the serial number. It is like who owns it. So that, and the copyright is who has gone and done the work to put it together. It's like the engineers, like if you the people that put the space rockets out, there's Boeing, there's Raytheon, they're the people that created it, but NASA may own it. Does that make sense? So it's all of doing this. Sue asked the questions: do you recommend any self-publishing software like Lulu or via Amazon? Ooh. Sue, if you can let me know, self-publishing software, do you want to distribute it electronically, or do you want to distribute it in paper? That's my follow-up question for you. Which, if you can reply in the chat, Sue, it depends. If you wanted to, if you wanted to do it in paper, self-publishing software. Okay, both. Okay, good. Self-publishing software, Amazon does a really good self-publishing software, but again, they take a cut. If they're going to do it, they're going to take a cut. And so they do the self-publishing software. They take 33% from what I saw the last contract that I saw. I chose not to go that route. Other people go that route though. And they do a 33% cut. That's great. I recommend for electronic BookBaby. BookBaby is what I use, and BookBaby has editors who will literally put your format in what we call an EPUB file. And this EPUB file is a electronic form that is downloadable on both Android and iPhone operating system software. So they take your information and put it into a file in which can be easily read and downloaded on electronic systems. So it's easily accessible. I recommend BookBaby in that case. And thank you. Darlene says, fabulous job. Oh, thank you so much, Darlene. Thank you. I really appreciate that coming from you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. My question is, how do I publish an investigative research book that will challenge topics? Okay. So Goodell has two questions. How would his Goodell, I don't know where you are here, or how would Goodell have her the mother do a cookbook with recipes? Okay. This is the catch. People don't know this, and I learned this in an interesting way. If you can't copyright mathematics, you can copyright the words around mathematics, but you can't copyright mathematics. That's the same thing with recipes. Because it's mathematics and the fractions with the recipes, there's certain things that is tough to copyright, but the words around the recipe can be copywritten. But it's kind of like a strange process or clause that it's actually kind of strange and process clause that exist with the US government with copywriting, but I'm not the one making the laws. So what you can do in the first case is, if you wanted to have your cookbook, you first want to write the book. You want to write the cookbook, and then you could actually, once it's written and the cookbook is all put together and it's clean and everything is put together, you can e-publish it through BookBaby. And then you can take excerpts from that in pictures, or you can take excerpts from it and then submit it on different blogs. So there's different cooking blogs that are out there. So you can say this particular recipe comes from this book that's downloadable here. And you give them the book so people can download the book from BookBaby or whatever it is. And then you can have the recipe book out there that way. That's a way to get around that's a way to provide the information and the content so people can get the information for the book. You could still copyright the entire book altogether, but it's not necessarily the mathematical part of the recipe, but you can copyright the entire book altogether. But what you can do is take a recipe or two and then contribute it to an online platform where this recipe comes from this cookbook, and you promote your cookbook so people can download it that way. And the question is, the second part of your question is, how do I publish an investigative research book that will challenge topics that may upset people? Well, it's best to work with an editor in this case, because editors are familiar with what words can get people sued and what words can get them out of hot water. Like, for example, if you're writing a book, you may not want to use people's real names. You might want to change the names of some people to protect their identity. Otherwise, if you don't, you become eligible for lawsuits for slander. So you want to work with an editor in that case, because editors are skilled with being able to know what is appropriate to say and what's not appropriate to say. And I recommend never ever being afraid of speaking your mind or what people would think, because your job is to get the information out there. However, your job also is to make sure whatever it is that is published is accurate. You always want to ensure that whatever it is that you write has been researched, and the information that it comes from is through credible sources. You never want to write something where the information is questionable, where the information that comes from non-credible sources. You want to always use your information from credible sources like news reports. You also want to use your sources and resources from textbooks. Any firsthand eyewitness accounts that has been documented. What you want to do is only publish information that has been checked out and researched through credible sources. Otherwise, if you print something and you put it out in print and it's not accurate, then that would open the door of potential lawsuits in the future. So you want to always protect yourself from that type of situation by working with an editor to ensure that the information in which you provide would not get you in hot water. I hope that answered your question. These are great questions. I love this part. The question answer part is really fun. Great. I see messages. All right. Any more questions? Any more questions that you may have? I'm looking through the chat. Oh, Helen asks, can you talk about what's involved in copywriting your work? Okay. All right. If you go to, there's a USPTO website. It's a government website. If you just type in US copyright into the Google search button and look only for the .gov extensions. So it's a government site, not something else that's commercial. You will be brought to the copyright, United States Copyright Office, I believe it is. And once you get that, here's the steps to, once you get to that, you have to set up an online account. You have to set up an online account to make sure that you have your eligibility to copyright. That's number one. Number two, once that is established with the Copyright Office, there is a copyright fee. Now, there's two different ways to copyright. One is, they call it the poor man's way to copyright, and then the other way is the official way to copyright. I'm going to tell you the official way, and then I'm going to tell you the poor man's way. And this is just the best way for me to write this. So once you establish the account through the Copyright Office, you then have to start filling out the extended form. There's a couple of different ways to copyright. There's literary work to copyright, which is you're copywriting the words. There's another form that is the graphics. So you have a form to copyright graphics. And then there's another form where you copyright motion picture. So any videos or anything else like that, you have an opportunity to fill out that form for that. And then there's a copyright for, I believe it is literary and graphics. So that's when you do books. So that's when the literary and graphics is put together. For books, you want to do both the graphics, which is the artwork, and then you also want to do, if you have any artwork in it, you want to do the graphics, and you also want to do the literary part, because the literary part talks about your words. So once you click that button, they're going to ask you questions on this form. So one of the key questions for them to ask you is, who owns the work? Whoever has written the book, you want to put that person down. If you had anyone, you paid anyone to write the book, you don't want to put that down, because there's such thing as work for hire. If you pay someone to do certain work on it, you have to also have in your agreement, whenever, if you pay an editor or a graphic designer, you have to write and make sure the agreement that at the end of the day, at the end of their services, you still own complete rights to your work. You have to make sure that's in your agreement before you hire anybody, and that's called work for hire. If you've hired somebody to help you do this, they do not own your work. So when it comes to copyright, if there's anyone for work for hire, you identify the work for hire, but you also have to put in there, they do not own the work. Or you can actually exclude them if you choose to. Actually, it's somewhat easier to exclude them, so you don't bring up any red flags at all with the copyright US government. So once you have that all input, it costs around $45 to do it online, electronic. If you were to fill out the form and send it into the US government, it takes much longer to process, and it's a different fee. I want to say it's anywhere between $65 and $85 to copyright. So when you have that, what you do is you fill it out online, and then they give you a place for you to pay for it online through your credit card, and then you upload the document. Your document has to be a PDF, and you upload your document, or a JPEG, and you upload your document, and then that now is on file. The reviewers look at that information, and then they see if you fulfill the requirements. If you do, you're given the copyright. If you don't, they usually send you something telling you that you didn't fill the requirements because of X, Y, and Z, and then you just refile again, but it costs money to do that. So that is the official way to copyright. If you want to do it the poor man's way of copywriting, and this is what I do for my TV shows, because I come up with ideas for TV shows all the time, but I don't necessarily want to pay $45 each time I come up with a TV show. What I do is I go to the Writers Guild of America website, and there's a way for you to copy. It's not officially copywriting. Copywriting is with the US government. There's a way to register your written work to prove that you're the one who wrote it. And it's called the Writers Guild of America registration. If you were to go to the Writers Guild of America registration and pay $20 on their site, you can upload it to their database, and you can easily prove that you're the one who wrote your work. Here's the catch with that. You have to update it every 5 years. Otherwise, it goes null and void. Once you have a copyright, however, that's good for a lifetime. You don't have to keep renewing it. If you were to trademark it, that's a whole different subject. If you were to trademark your book title or your product, that's a different process. That's called a trademark. And the USPTO.gov, I believe that's a website, USPTO website of the government, United States Trademark and Patent Office, deals with product registration. So if you were to trademark something, like for example, I have Answers Unleashed. If you see that, Answers Unleashed is trademarked. So no one can use Answers Unleashed at all except me. So I have the AnswersUnleashed.com. I have the Answers Unleashed book. If you want to make sure no one else uses your title, and you have a product that you're going to be selling under that title, and it could be a series of books or a series of products, like for mine is the Answers Unleashed platform that deals with science and technology. If you have that, what you want to do is ensure no one else can use that title by trademarking it. That costs around $325, and that's a little bit more extensive process, and it takes around a year and a half for that. A year if it's quick, a year and a half if it's long, to get that process. And so that is a different process, and that's if you want to ensure no one else is going to have a title like yours and you plan to create more work underneath that title. For example, I have the Answers Unleashed book series, so I create books underneath this title. I also created the Quantum Deciding title, in which I create planners. So every year there's a planner underneath the Quantum Deciding planning system. Just like Franklin Covey has their planning system, or there's different book series. That's when you plan to do something over and over again underneath the same name, that's when you want to trademark it, and that's a separate process other than copywriting. So I hope I answered that question for you. Great question. Great question. All right. So that is the end of our session. Again, if you'd like to contact me, go to answersunleashed.com/book publishing. And our office number is 310-272-4293. At this point, we're going to end this lecture. Again, if you have any questions, visit answersunleashed.com/book publishing and contact Santa Monica College Emeritus Program if you want more of these classes held on the campus. All right, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.